thanks to my patrons of Tone, we've had no sign-ups recently, but I'm not going to count my strings until I get 100 patrons. So whenever I restring a new guitar, that's it. You're going to have to deal with it. Stringgate 2025. This really is a self-indulgent one, only because the isolated tracks for Lick It Up are some of the best Marshall tone you've ever heard. I do believe it's a Marshall. I do believe it's a 1973 Marshall Plexi Super Lead with greenbacks. There's a thing between blackbacks and greenbacks. I have both in that one cabinet, and Celestian greenbacks was the ones that was closest that I could get. So mine's the 69, based on a 69 Super Lead with all vintage innards, but it's a like new old stock type of thing. There's been a lot of speculation on what they used. I do honestly think Occam's Razor is the most likely. Gene Simmons bought a bunch of Marshalls in 1973, a bunch of them. So, you know, the big backline, stuff like that. Some of them were not dummy cabs. Some of them were actually filled with the good stuff, right? I'm not a big Kiss fan. I never was. My background, the underground thrash scene in Wales, that was me. I was made up. Sabbath, Violence, Whiplash, the band Whiplash, loved it all. Exuma, that was my thing, right? When I saw Kiss, or even Ozzy Osbourne,
it's like drugs. They were okay at the time, but we outgrew them, you know. We just, you know, we took LSD, we took cocaine, we took vast amounts of marijuana. It was fun at the time, but then we all just sort of thought this ain't a very good idea anymore.
So you have a more stable life now?
No.
I thought this shit is fake. I thought they were a fake band. I was kind of half right, all right? But I've come a long way now from this little, essentially elitist, thrash, underground, end-of-level fucking guitar nerd boss that I am, right? I've come full circle, and I'm really starting to appreciate the older stuff that I used to think, oh, that's literally gay, all right? And like the same thing happened with bands like Duran Duran. I used to just like, what the hell is this crap? And then now I just realized how good early Duran Duran is. But holy crap, I went down the Vinnie Vincent just whirlpool of madness. And Vinnie Vincent officially, pause for effect, sorry about that noise, he was never a member of Kiss. Officially, he never signed anything. He was always just, hey, can you get on this plane and do this gig for us? So filling in. He was like, even when Kiss were doing music videos with Ace Frehley, he'd often be in the background, you know, not in the video, but he'd be hanging out. He was like their emergency, you know, break glass guy. And he was begging them all the time, please get me in this band, you know, because he says, I'm a perfect fit for this band. They didn't even want to pay him for the work that he did on Lick It Up, because he was still umming and ahhing if he was going to be in the band or not. So yeah, he's on the album. Yeah, he's on the videos. Yeah, he's in the famous Lick It Up video, which Paul Stanley made fun of him for trying to act sexy. Lick it up! Lick it up! Really, Paul Stanley? Vinnie Vincent is the embarrassing one in this video? Stanley said that Vinnie looked like the Gerber baby with a wig. And what else did he say? He's too short, too weird looking. I think he's like compelling. It's kind of like interesting to look at, you know? You could tell that they had a word with the producer because they cut him out like all the time in the video.
Even look at me funny. If you do one thing that I find weird, which is, you know, like your middle name, see, you're doing it right now. Can you just act like a human boy for 1 minute here? Look at me like a person. You can't do it for more than a few seconds. Look at me like a human boy. Don't mess around with me.
Paul Stanley, man, what a piece of shit. And both of them, the Gene Simmons, two pieces of fucking shit, but I like it. I keep on saying there's not enough assholes in rock and metal. And they just prove that you have to be larger than life. You have to be a bit of a son of a bitch to get anywhere in this industry. And poor old Vinnie Vincent dug his little tiny feet in a little bit too hard, and he ended up getting pushed out. He was the heaviest thing in Kiss. Like, I'm not surprised I gravitated towards this one of all the albums I could have picked. Like, I mentioned I thought that Kiss were a fake band. Let's just talk about Kiss Alive. That is not a live record. They did try and record it live, but it was a disaster. It sounded fucking terrible. Drums were all over the place. It's understandable that they re-recorded the whole thing in a studio and they had fake crowd noise and stuff like that. I did a video on the origins of chug, of thrash, right? Was a band called The Sweet, and they were a huge influence on Kiss. This is a British band that pretty much launched the careers of people like Kiss. Massive influences on Kiss. I think The Sweet had a massive impact on the new wave of British heavy metal, which went on to really cement chugging. It took what Black Sabbath and people like that were starting on, but The Sweet have speed metal elements to them. I mean, they were rocking hard and fast, and that angst I was talking about. Check this out, dude. This is early 70s. Little things like The Sweet influencing Kiss, the live show, then Kiss influencing some hard hitters like Pantera.
I was about 13 years old. I got a fake Les Paul, tried to be Ace Frehley, skipped school, dressed up like Kiss,
With the punk guitar, was that ever an influence on you?
Not real huge. It was pretty mainstream heavy metal for me, Kiss, goddamn, what am I thinking?
Static X and stuff like that. It might have been fake to me from my perspective in, gloomy UK. It's like a gateway drug. This band is responsible for a lot of hardcore underground acts, you know what I mean? So it's the larger than life. They were just before MTV came out, they were putting out videos, which not a lot of metal and rock bands were doing at the time, because they didn't have the marketing, they didn't have the brains, they didn't have the drive, and that is something that Gene Simmons and Paul Stanley have in spades. Vinnie Vincent, he just sold everything. He went to Hollywood, and he said that to be in Hollywood in the 80s, in the late 70s, was guitar heaven. Everything was starting to get big. He actually did a lot of work with bands that would have bigger hits than Kiss. His name got bandied around a lot for certain gigs, but it always came with but he's kind of hard to work with because he was a perfectionist.
And Gene and Paul called me before they got him and said, well, I heard you work with Vinnie Casano, was his name. And I said, yeah. He goes, well, we're thinking of bringing him a Kiss. What do you think? I said, trouble. He's going to be trouble. A great player, good songwriter, but trouble. We brought him into the band, and guess what? He was trouble.
Vinnie Vincent was too far of a perfectionist, where he would just piss off engineers, everybody, and there was rumors that he was stealing gear because he was broke. He was he'd record for Kiss. He'd say, are you giving me the, the standard musician rate? And they said, yeah. Then he'd record everything, and they'd ask him to come in to record some more stuff. He says, when am I going to get paid? You owe me like $5,000 in payment. So he must have been in there for like hundreds of hours. And they said, the guys, they decided not to pay you. Being in the band should be enough. You should be able to market yourself. You should be able to get this, that, and the other just from the Exposure, the world famous Exposure. And he said, fuck that. I ain't going to come in the studio no more. And then they come begging, they give him his check, and da. But this went on, that was like a blueprint for his entire Kiss career, which was only like less than 2 years. He made a hell of a splash, man. I wasn't surprised that he did sue Kiss a couple of times, right? I was surprised that he didn't win because he has receipts. Not many people know this, but Vinnie Vincent recorded everything they ever did. Everything, like all of their practice sessions. He has like hundreds of cassettes, the original cassettes. So how could he claim? I presume, I don't know what the lawsuits are about. I presume it's about royalties and songwriting. How could he have those tapes of him literally writing in a room with Gene Simmons, you know, and recording all of it? And how can he lose that? Seems like the judges are often in cahoots with these fucking terrible labels. I know, because my dad got ripped off. He got ripped off so badly that VH1 did a documentary on it. Check out Badfinger VH1 Behind the Music. It's a tragic tale.
No matter what you are, I will always.
And that is why I am Team Vinny. Like Carmen Apiece talked mad shit about him. And when it really gets down to the nitty gritty, Carmen wanted to split the royalties 4 ways. But Vinnie Vincent was writing this stuff. You know, this isn't the fucking Musketeers, one for one. It's, I should get paid for what I do. And then he gets kicked out of that band. And another one where, you know, people are bitching and moaning about him. Slaughter, the band Slaughter, Vinnie Vincent Invasion had the main guys in Slaughter as the singer and things like that. The singer was whining about Vinnie.
One time we were opening for Alice Cooper. The intro tape was rolling, and Vinnie turns to me and said, "You know, Mark, you really sounded like garbage last night. If you don't pull it together, you're not going to be in the next record." And then we started. Then we were on stage. And, you know, there's two different things that people would react to. Some people say, "I don't need this." And then there's the fighters who will go out there and say, "You know what? And I went out there, and I'm a fighter. So I went out there and performed more, did more, you know, as a singer."
Having the audacity to tell him that, you know, he needs to up his game before playing a gig. And then the singer goes on to say, "And then I give it my all, and I'm a fighter, so then I did even better." And I'm like, dude, is he raising your game? He's raising your brand? I mean, the label practically dropped Vinnie, and they just took the rest of the band and called him Slaughter. Dude, the guy is like a disaster, but rock and roll, you know what I mean? I keep on saying this industry is so bereft of characters. I kind of really like him after watching some of his interviews and reading, oh my God, the fans, they fuck with him so badly that he admittedly, right, after saying all this, he is outrageous when it comes to selling memorabilia or access to him or, you know, pulling out at gigs. But it's like, yes, he's trying to sell, you know, picks for $500 and stuff like that, but they created that creature from ripping him off, you know, taking advantage of some of the best songs that Kiss ever wrote, some of the heaviest stuff, you know. So it's like you created this this requirement to flog all of his gear and, you know, sell Polaroids and this access. I think the latest one that I read was the access to his Facebook group is like $200 a year because he was getting so many trolls just calling him out about, you know, trying to rip people off or, you know, buying a $200 guitar and trying to sell it for $1,000 just because he played it. I can't blame him, you know, because think about this, right? In the height of Kiss, he had a wife with 2 baby girls, twins, right? He had literally nothing in the bank. He'd skip. Sometimes he'd say, you know, can we afford food today? And I don't know, we have to try and figure something out. He couldn't afford food. He couldn't afford gas in his shitbox car to drive to the studio where he was putting out, hit albums. He got ripped the fuck off. So then when I do hear tales about his excess, like Slaughter was saying that he would run up like outrageous hotel bills, and he was a bit of an oddball, shut in, very private. So I kind of accept it. I'm like, I'm okay with it. It's like rock and roll, just be a bastard. Why not? Why not? If people are going to pay that much money for a guitar, let them pay for it. I'd love to have something he's got some like really kick-ass double V weird shit that I would love to have a crack on. He was kind of jealous of the Randy Rhoads hype because he thought that he deserved that much time, and that kind of undone him. If you believe the guys in Kiss, they said it was because of his solos were taking too long and everything, and live solos, where you'd be too indulgent in Kiss, right? I think they would tell him, don't go on your knees, don't get up here, don't do this move, da 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 da. And he does say, honestly, they did teach him to perform pretty well. But you want to see some excess, brother? Check this out. Oh! What the fuck is that, dude? Can you get any bigger? The hair can't get any more teased. You know what I mean? I love it. The explosions are bigger. What the fuck is he doing? Throwing his guitar into an amp? Like, just excess. You know what I mean? That's what it's all about. Let's talk about gear real quick. But there's some rumors on Kiss Alive that a small Fender Tweed was used, or a Fender Princeton with Jensen speakers. There's lots of rumors like that, and I do think that could be true sporadically, on that album, because it was so put together weird, There's also maybe a JMP on there, a 73 JMP. There's lots of rumors about what was used, what guitars. Was it a super distortion in the pickup for Ace Frehley? You know what I mean? But I think it was a T-top, to be honest. I do think that this sounds like a Gibson and a 73 Marshall. That's my best bet. He also, Ace Frehley back in the day used a Big Muff as well. So interesting stuff, interesting gear. I'll put some links in the gear. The Johan Sagebone did some great work on this subject, and he also came up with the opinion that it was a greenback and not a blackback. And I can concur, because the first thing I went to was the blackback, and then as soon as the green one was in, all the frequencies just hit, and I'm like, oh, that is the Kiss fucking speaker, in my opinion. But you can't go wrong with a Marshall and a Les Paul. how beautiful is that guitar, dude? That is a Yamaha, a 70s, maybe an early 80s Yamaha Les Paul copy. So it's absolute juggernaut of a guitar. And I actually prefer the pickups in it, even though they are a bit microphonic. I actually prefer those pickups to the burst buckers that are in they're the most expensive, standard Gibson PAF style pickups that they have out, the burst buckers. And this sounds better. I don't know. Maybe I'm going to put my pickups in it to try it out. I get because my pickups are the fucking pinnacle. But interesting guitar, right? It's impossible to fuck up as long as it's cranked. Because my ears are fucking killing me from sitting across that. Because you got to crank it to get the chirp. Mine sounds on the chugs and stuff. I'm picking a little bit heavier than he would. My strings are a little bit heavier, so the open A. Just general chug, that mine sounds a little bit beefier. But when you hear the ringing chords, the fantastic finesse, what a player, Vinnie Vincent, that is fucking rocking, dude. I don't give a shit what anyone says. Round of applause for Vinnie. I know he didn't beat up his fucking wife. More bullshit. He records everything. Scandals. People love the headlines. They never get past the headlines. They always accuse him of domestic abuse, right? Because there's a headline that says it. He was arrested. They did turn up to his house. Basically, his wife is she died of alcohol-related issues. She was a nightmare, like a drunk. He filmed her the night just when she left. He was actually filming her because he said, I know this, sometimes this gets crazy, so I'm just going to film just for my own safety. And he filmed her. Then she left, claimed that she was all bloody and the rest of it, and he pulled her across glass and this and that. And it was like, I don't think Vinnie Vincent's going to be pulling anybody. He's tiny. He's an old man. But he didn't get shot. He didn't get found guilty of it. He had evidence. Like, look, I've literally filmed her that night, just before she left. This is like evidence. So he got off and then because the pigs came and they searched his entire house for evidence of him beating the shit out of his wife. There's no evidence. She looked like completely normal, right? And they found dead dogs in his basement. All right. And I feel so bad for him because he was bringing in strays. And some of his bigger dogs, they had fights and they killed the other dogs. So they didn't get found guilty of animal cruelty either. So all these headlines are like, I can understand living in Minnesota where the weather's all shit and you can't bury stuff. I couldn't, if my life depended on it, I couldn't bury my wife in that garden because it's frozen solid. It was -20 recently. So yeah, long may he continue. He was actually a bit of a shredder, but a chaotic shredder. So like some of admittedly, his bluesier, rockier stuff, the earlier stuff was great. He did go a bit too hard in the paint with the widdly widdly when he would try to be, everybody around him said that he was trying to be Yngwie. But honestly, I only think that most of those musicians only know Yngwie. They couldn't articulate other players that shred, without mentioning Yngwie. His name always comes up. It's like Shakespeare, he swear nobody else has ever written a fucking play. Interesting character, interesting life. He disappeared for 20 years. And then he pops up now and then. He keeps on promising certain gigs, things like that, and he falls through. I honestly think he has I honestly think the industry's kind of crushed him mentally, and he has issues really concentrating because he was like that in the past. He would often over record because he was just a perfectionist. And there's some people like that. There's a lot of them in the forums back in the day where they create, but they don't finish a lot of stuff. And I think that he needs something solid. I do think that really Gene Simmons was actually a good anchor for him. I do think Gene Simmons was good for him musically. Vinnie Vincent's like a balloon that if you just let go of his string, he's just going to go out there, So when you got something with big clogs on, like, that big bass gorilla, who was a fucking great bass player. Gene Simmons is great. Like, for the song, what a wonderful, like, molten rock beast he was, live and in the studio. What a great player. Underrated player. Very basic, but not at the same time. You could tell that he was holding back on purpose. So yeah, Paul Stanley is like forever. Stanley just hated him. He said he was too short, he's too ugly, he was too weird, and so the solo thing where they try and pull him back is a good indication of what I'm saying when it comes to Kiss being good for him, because it was not his strong suit. The shredding wasn't his strong suit. So they were right to say, hey, calm down. And they claim they fired him because of the long solos, but I don't think so. I think it's because he refused to sign that shitty-ass contract. And God bless him, man. When you see the contract that he was offered, something like $500 a week, and, nothing when it comes to residuals and stuff like that, he was right not to sign it. He was right. Carmen Appice tried to get him on a shitty contract. They all try to get him, but he's like, nope. His mission in life was to join the biggest band in the world and make money writing. And he got half of that. He was in Kiss, one of the biggest in the world. He turned him around, dude. Kiss were doing nothing. They had fallen off the map, And MTV had just come out, and so other bands were getting the shine that they used to in the magazines. So he pretty much saved them. Lick it up, put them on the map, man. Put them back on track. And they do owe him a lot. And for fucking Paul Stanley to say, just before the last appearances and everything, the last tour, to say that there's no way he's going to get on stage with us is kind of like petty, dude. Like, come on, all this time. Just because he wouldn't sign your shitty contract so you get some more shekels out of him. And just because, he's bit of a reputation as a lunatic, which I like. It's like, grow up. Come on, give the fans what they want. Some of them, a lot of the fans, they give him a lot of shit. If you want to go down a rabbit hole, man, the Kiss Army, holy shit. There's some interesting characters, especially amongst the collectors, when they do interviews about the man, the myth, the legend. All right, chaps, you have a good one. Lots more stuff coming up soon. If you want me to cover any other bands, I know I didn't go technically into gear, but on this one, Marshall, Gibson, Greenback, the end. You know what I mean? Kiss. You got to kiss all day and all night and party every day. So, what is it with that band and weird guitarists, man? Love it.